Hello and welcome to a very special episode of the Field of 68 After Dark. We are live. It is 1 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon. My name is Rob Dosser. I have Jeff Goodman with me, and we are joined by a very special guest, none other than now Kentucky forward, Jayden Quaintance. Jayden, we appreciate you being here, man. You recently announced that you're going to be transferring from Arizona State to Kentucky. What kind of led you to the decision that you wanted to spend next season in Lexington?
Well, I was looking for a change, obviously, kind of an offense that was a little higher paced. Just a situation I felt that I could showcase my versatility a little more, and I felt like Kentucky was the perfect place. I felt like I had a great relationship with the coaches and with the fans. The fans always showed a lot of support throughout my journey, and especially after I committed, it was a lot of fan love and love from like the Kentucky community. So I just felt like this was a great fit for me personally.
So I remember when we saw you in Rock Hill 2 summers ago. I was blown away by how hard you played. More than anything, physically, what you were at 16 years old, I was a little bit surprised when people told me you were 16. But you played so damn hard. That's the thing that rubbed off on me more than anything else. What did you learn in year one, Jayden, that you can take into the rest of your college career here? What are Kentucky fans going to get from you?
Well, they're going to get a winner. I go out to win every game I play. That's really the end goal. I try and win every game I play. I compete at the highest level, and that's always been me, just playing to win, make winning plays. So that's what you can expect from me. In year one, I learned a lot about the preparation that goes into college games. The scheduling's a little different. Level of competition's a little different. So, you got to prepare a little better. And I felt like I kind of got that down earlier, and I had the opportunity early. So I felt like I got that advantage over a lot of other people this year.
Jayden, I think one of my favorite things about watching Mark Pope's teams this year and also last year at BYU was the way that he put bigs into playmaking positions. I mean, we called Amari Williams the 6'11" point guard all season long. You see Brandon Garrison throwing these backdoor passes. Those guys are allowed to knock down some threes. How will your game fit into that style of offense and maybe what you haven't been able to showcase yet at the college level?
For sure. This offense is a lot more open and has a lot better spacing than I've kind of been used to. So it's going to be a lot more backdoor opportunities, get in the paint, make the next pass, just make a lot more winning plays, be able to get your team involved a little bit more, get into an easier flow. And I feel like I'm going to be able to, again, show off my versatility, passing, playing with space. I feel like I'm going to be able to flourish in that role.
All right, so tell me what the process was like, because a lot of people wonder right now. The portal's out of control, in a good way and a bad way. Like, obviously, while the Final Four is going on, I'm like, can't we hold this off a little bit longer? What was it like for you when you put your name in the portal? Kind of give people maybe a closer look, an inside look into what this is like for you guys.
Well, I hopped in the portal a little later than some others, but again, my dad has been he's been a big help for me kind of navigating the portal and navigating college coaches and this college thing that I'm trying to do. So he's done a lot of talking to coaches for me, vetting out a lot of my options. So he helped me with that. I wasn't really talking to as many coaches as some other people might have been. Um, it was really here in Auburn were the really only schools I talked to that heavily. So it wasn't really as strenuous as it might have been for some other prospects because I had my dad there helping me along the way.
Did it help having a previous relationship with a lot of these schools? You kind of went through your high school recruitment and you ended up at Arizona State, and then you're back on the market about 8 months later. Did it help that you already kind of knew who a lot of these guys were and a lot of these programs were and what a lot of these universities were about?
For sure, kind of having a relationship with these coaches already kind of made it feel more comfortable, more natural going into the portal and kind of vetting out these programs, just kind of having a relationship prior. I felt like that helped a lot.
Is it strange? You committed to Kentucky, obviously, under John Calipari. Now you're going there under Mark Pope. Is it a little bit weird?
I don't think it's really that weird. The coach showed the most interest out of anybody that I talked to. He seemed really excited to kind of have me here and be able to show what I could do and how I could fit in this program and kind of help this program, and that we have a real chance to win a national title and win games here. So I felt like this was kind of the best fit for me, especially with Pope being like a bigger player. Like he kind of knows kind of where I need to improve, what I need to work on. He kind of knows what I have to go through and what I have to work on really well.
So you guys have landed 4 players in the portal now: Jalen Lowe, Cam Williams, Mo Diabate, and obviously yourself. Have you had a chance to connect with any of those guys, and did any of them help convince you along the way?
Honestly, I haven't really got to talk to many of the other people who committed through the portal. I have talked to some of the freshmen that are coming in, because I did reclass up, so I was in their class. I'm really familiar with Jasper, Malachi. I had relationships with them prior to committing. Jasper was a huge part of kind of lead me this way, talking to coaches, talking to me about kind of what was going on in the situation. And he helped a lot, getting me here. So he was a big part of that. And the relationship we had already playing on Team Thad and winning a lot there. So that was good. And then Malachi was with me on my visit, so I had prior relationships with them. But as far as the transfer portal, I haven't really got to talk to them yet. But I'm excited when I get on campus.
Yeah, you mentioned that you reclassified. We've seen a lot of players move up, along the lines that you did. What was it difficult? Like, what did you find as the hardest part about going to college a year earlier than most players are going?
It's not the physical. Hey, Rob, it's definitely not the acclimation to the physical play with Jayden.
Yeah, that wasn't really the biggest change for me. I kind of played prep school for all 3 years of high school. I played EYBL. I've been playing up EYBL. So I've been playing against top prospects and real physical prospects kind of my whole career. That wasn't the biggest adjustment. Kind of trying to balance college, like off the court, like kind of classes every day. So like the first semester I had 7:30 class, 9 o'clock class. And then I think I had like 11:30 class also. So just kind of trying to balance actual college schedule and the basketball schedule was kind of hard off rip, like when I started off. But I feel like kind of adjusting to that, the on and off the court stuff, obviously the preparation, but, it's also easier, like more accessible to get work off the court, work with coaches. So just kind of adjusting from high school to college, just the lifestyle was probably the biggest help for me.
Hey, Jayden, you made 52% of your shots from the floor this season. Was that more or less than the percentage of 7:30 a.m. classes that you made it to?
I actually didn't miss a 7:30 a.m. class.
Oh, good for you, man. All right.
Yeah,
good for you.
Yeah, that's because that's because Bobby Hurley probably had class checkers going in and making sure you're at that 7:30 class. Let's be honest here,
true.
right? I'm gonna tell you, I know both those dudes well, Bobby Hurley and Mark Pope, very well. They are very different personalities, very different. Give me your favorite Bobby Hurley story, because I know you have a million of them, and I love Bobby. But he can be a little high-strung at times, right?
Nah, for sure. He's a real passionate coach. Favorite Bobby Hurley story? There's a lot of Bobby Hurley stories.
You probably can't tell a lot of them.
I'll kind of think. Let me come back to that. Let me think.
All right, that's good. That's good.
No problem. We'll hold you on that.
I think the big question, Jayden, that most Kentucky fans have been asking me is, when is Jayden going to be back on the court? Obviously, you had knee surgery, torn ACL. About a month ago, you had the surgery. Give us kind of the update and timeline of when you're hoping to be back.
Well, I'm supposed to be able to get back to contact play and like be on the court against other players by September. So that should be good if everything goes as planned. So recovery's been going really well. I already got past, I think, around 120 flexibility. I got my quad strengthened a lot. So it's been going really well. The recovery process has been going well. I could almost weight bear. I'm walking around a little easier. So yeah, it's been going really well.
Well,
so
that's good to hear, Jayden.
The hope is to be able to start the season playing. That's the hope. If you're back in September, you'll still have 2 months before the first game. That's the plan, is to be on the court for the first game.
For sure.
Cool. That'd be
All right, good. Well, look, go make sure you don't skip any rehab. Make sure you get all that work done, because we want to see you out there playing in a Mark Pope system, dropping dimes, blocking shots, and showing everyone how good you can be as a basketball player. Jayden, we appreciate you jumping on, man. Best of luck this season. Get healthy, all right?
All right, for sure. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Jayden. Appreciate it, man.
Jayden Quaintance, the big pull from the portal for Kentucky here. Goodman, Kentucky's had. I mean, look, you want to talk about some portal success? I'd make the argument that bringing in 4 guys, all of whom make sense in the system that Mark Pope wants to play, all of whom have more than just 1 year of eligibility left, while also not losing yet. I say yet because you don't know what's going to happen, but not losing yet Otega Owe or Brandon Garrison. You get a little bit of continuity. You got some talent coming in, and you don't just have guys that are all going to be big-time shot makers. Mo Diabate, obviously, kind of a role player. Cam Williams, 6'8" wing that shoots 42% from threes on 4.5 attempts per game. It makes a lot of sense there. So I really, really like what Mark Pope has done in the portal here.
Yeah, how can you not? I mean, how can you not so far again? And it's no surprise. I mean, again, they picked up momentum under Mark Pope. Obviously, we know they have resources. We know Big Blue Nation supports their program. They're as rabid as any fan base as there is. But, the biggest key was this year to get that momentum in year one that could have went either way, right? If you struggle, then it's, they've lost some juice after Calipari left. Well, in fact, it's kind of the other way now because those kids last year, too, showed that pride for Kentucky that I don't think we thought we would see in just 8 months of playing together. But that was the really impressive thing. But, yeah, Jayden, if he's back on the court in November, man, their front line, Diabate and Quaintance, is going to be fun to watch because those 2 dudes are tough as shit, Rob.
Yeah, and I believe that Brandon Garrison and Malachi Moore make sense in that role as well. So all of a sudden you have 4 guys for basically 2.5 spots, which is not a bad situation to be in. They're also still in the mix for a couple of the other players that we're going to discuss here. We got to talk about Robert Wright. We got to talk about Ian Jackson. Got to talk about Xavion Lee, Nate Ament, Lamar Wilkerson. We're going to have our top 10 available transfers here in just a second. But before we do, Goodman, you broke a little bit of coaching news. You were trying like hell to save it to break on the show, but I guess there were some other people sniffing around, and you had to find a way to get out in front of it. That news, High Point head coach Alan Huss, who was one of the more sought-after mid-major guys in the carousel this year, or at least linked, one of the mid-major guys linked with a lot of high major openings, is going to go back to Creighton as the coach in waiting, and Greg McDermott looks like he will either be retiring in a year or more likely 2 seasons before he calls it quits here on what has been a sterling career for Coach Mack. What can you tell us about Alan Huss, Greg McDermott, and the news that you broke today?
So this has been in the works for a couple weeks here. And I actually thought it was going to happen a couple weeks ago. And, they're trying to figure everything out at this point, whether Greg McDermott was going to retire after next season, whether it was a little bit more open-ended. Obviously, if you're Alan Huss at High Point, Rob, you're saying to yourself, like, he played there, he coached there. That's his dream job. He's coached under Mack there before. But I'm not leaving a High Point job where he's got a ton of NIL, where they've won at the highest level over these couple of years. I'm not leaving to wait 3 years. I'll come and maybe wait a year or 2. And I think my sources say that's what it's going to be. Either a year or 2 for Greg McDermott. And then, he's 60 years old. He retires and gives it to Huss. And this is a win for everybody. It's a win for Greg McDermott because he's got Alan Huss now for the next couple of years. Makes his life easier. It's a win for Alan Huss because he knows he's got this Creighton job and he can prepare for it and make sure it doesn't fall off at all. He can kind of, again, make sure it's rolling like it has been. And it's a win for the university and administration because they have a plan in place when many people don't. You saw what happened with Coach K and Shire, and the times have changed here since. We know that. But, it's still more of a 1-year deal at this point. But they know they have their guy, and he's the right guy. I mean, Darren DeVries just took Indiana, so he's out of the equation. Who else would it have been? Porter Moser might have been in the mix here, another guy with ties. But ultimately, Alan Huss made all the sense in the world, and he gives up for at least a year here a head coaching job at High Point to be the coach in waiting, to be the associate head coach and coach in waiting. So I think this is a great move for everybody involved. The one person who probably sacrificed is Alan Huss because he probably could have waited another year or two for McDermott to actually say he's retiring and then just jumped in. Instead, he's given up probably some salary, certainly a head coaching gig, but working for Greg McDermott is also pretty good, pretty easy.
Yeah, and it allows you to be able to be in that spot and recruit knowing that players are not going to be surprised when McDermott retires, right? Like you're bringing someone in, anyone that they go out and land, whether it's a freshman or a transfer with multiple years of eligibility left, you're bringing them in knowing that potentially in 2 years, maybe even in 1 year, you're going to be playing for Alan Huss. And I do think that has been part of why you've seen Shire's transition at Duke be about as seamless as it has been, because everyone knew the situation. All the information was out there. So I do think that there is a little bit of value in that for Huss and for McDermott. I'll also say, Goodman, you mentioned how much NIL Alan Huss has. Whoever is going to go get that High Point job is basically set up for, like, in 2 to 3 years, being able to win a bunch and then make the leap to the high major level. So there's a lot of assistance.
I think it'll be, yeah.
Go ahead.
I think it'll be, I'm not sure, they're trying to figure it out, but assistant Flynn Kamen is probably the one that has the best shot right now. He's obviously been with us. He's done a great job. So, in these situations, I'm usually a proponent of, if there's a guy on staff that deserves it, give it to him, keep this thing rolling, because like you just said, they've had NIL. They've already done a really good job in the portal. So to me, continuity is key. And I think High Point's, again, you look back to where they were a couple of years ago and where they are now, keep this thing going on that trajectory.
Yep. All right. So we teased that we have this list of top transfers that are going to be available. And you texted me, let me make sure I have the names right. Who do you have info on right now, Goodman? You said you wanted to talk about Lamar Wilkinson, Robert Wright, Ian Jackson, RJ Lewis, and Xavion Lee. Those are the guys you have info on, right? Breaking news. We have some insight into where these transfers are going to go and how these recruitments are going to end up. And we'll get all of that information from you after this break from our sponsors. If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Go download the BetMGM app and use the code FIELD today. College basketball fans, are you ready to take your hoops game to a new level? Whether you're a seasoned bettor or just trying to win your March Madness office pool, Rhythm is here to give you the edge this season. With data-driven predictions for every single college basketball game left on the schedule, Rhythm helps you maximize your bets. And as March Madness kicks off, Rhythm's insights will help you spot those plucky Cinderellas that you know are going to shake up the NCAA tournament. But that's not all. When Selection Sunday rolls around, let Rhythm's AI-powered bracket generator do the heavy lifting for you. This is the same AI tool that performed 35% better than the average ESPN bracket last year. And here's the best part. Rhythm pairs perfectly with our Field of 68 expert analysis, giving you the 1-2 punch that you need for the rest of the college basketball season. So don't wait. Download Rhythm today and get ready to see college basketball and your betting results in a whole new light. Welcome back to the Field of 68. Field of 68 afternoon, I guess we're going to have to call these. We got some transfer portal updates, some transfer portal breakdowns, and a look at where some of the biggest named transfers are going to could eventually end up going. So let's start with this. I said that we have a list of top 10 available transfers. Let's get into that right now. Rob Wright, transferring out of Baylor, former top 40-ish kind of recruit, Team Philly guy. I think is the best player left in the portal. Ian Jackson from North Carolina, number 2. RJ Lewis, I have him at 3. Darian Williams, I've said all season long, I think is one of the most underrated players in college basketball, and now he's one of the most underrated names left in the transfer portal. Florida State, Shamir Watkins is there. Lamar Wilkerson, who Goodman believe will be this year's Chaz Lanier. Xavier Lee from Princeton, Rodney Rice from Maryland, your boy Mackenzie Mbako, and then Wesley Yates, where if you are listening to this maybe a couple of hours or a day later, maybe he shouldn't be on this list by then, but we'll see what ends up happening there. I want to start with Rob Wright, though, because this is a guy, big-time point guard, had flashes this season at Baylor where he looked like one of the best players in the Big 12, was a little bit up and down, had moments where he wasn't necessarily the most consistent player in the world, but he has proven himself worthy of some of the ridiculous offers in the portal right now. The name that he's being linked with the most is BYU, but I've heard Villanova because of his Philly ties. I've heard Florida because of what they've just seen happen with Walter Clayton Jr. I've heard North Carolina because they are obviously looking for a point guard in that spot. What can you tell us about Robert Wright and his recruitment right now?
So this is bananas, Rob. Bananas, what happened. I mean, he signed with Baylor. Like, this was done to go back to Baylor. Done, per my sources. And I don't know how it got to the point it did, but, I'm told there was some – and this is how it works, right? Even if you sign now, people are going to try to flip you. And I'm not saying a specific school did this, but there's stuff out there where people are hitting your guy, mentors, AU coaches, whatever, and throwing out a bigger number than 1.5. And that's what happened. And these other schools got involved at this point, and you can't blame them because the number right now is about $3 million. $3 million.
Yeah.
And the favorite, he's going to visit BYU Friday, per my sources. And if all goes well, Rob Wright will join and be the point guard for A.J. DeBonsa. And he'll be the point guard for a team that, frankly, has enough coming back and, number 1, 2, 3 incoming freshmen in the country. And this is a guy, think about it, he's played with Cooper Flagg in high school, Rob Wright. He's played with VJ Edgecombe as a freshman at Baylor, and now he's going to play with A.J. DeBonsa, who has as high upside as any freshman in the entire country. So this is a BYU team that is going to absolutely have all the pieces. I would expect, barring something crazy, I would expect Rob Wright to be a BYU Cougar as early as this weekend.
So the potential of adding Rob Wright to a team that includes A.J. DeBonsa, Richie Saunders, Kava Keita, and the Boscovich coming back. Looks like Yegor Demon is probably going to end up heading to the league. But there's a lot of talent on this roster, a lot of shooting on this roster, and I think that Robert Wright is a guy where he averaged 12 points and 4.5 assists last season at Baylor. That is a really, really good pickup for BYU if it does end up coming to fruition. But the one thing I do want to touch on too is you mentioned that he signed. That is absolutely not the first time that I've heard a situation where a player had agreed to a deal coming back and then turned around and ended up looking for more. I do think that one way.
Okay, Rob, hold on. So I want to ask you this because, again, when you sign a contract, what are the repercussions for the player? How does it lock the player? It really doesn't. The players have all the leverage in this right now, and this is reason number one. This is indication number one. You could sign a contract, and it doesn't mean shit. The player can just go out and, again, if they've gotten paid some money already, they probably have to give back that money. But ultimately, there's nothing that binds the player to the school. And in this case, again, I can't say I blame Rob Wright at all. You just doubled your money. I would do the same damn thing. It's just crazy how there's
You know what? I Scott Drew would be upset about it, but I promise you, Scott Drew understands the value of.
Yeah, I'm sure he does.
What can you say? Yeah. What can you say? Like, he's going to double the salary. Like, what can you say? There's not much that you can say. Like, my biggest question is, if you're paying AJ what it sounds like they're going to pay AJ, and you're paying Rob Wright what it sounds like they're going to pay Rob Wright. You also have to pay Richie Saunders. Like, I know, like they have. We talk about some of these teams spending like $8-10 million. Like that might be $10 million right there on 3 players. Like
Yeah,
that might be $10 million on 3 players.
6, 5. Yeah, it is. No, that's $10 million on 3 players. That's exactly what it is. That's $10 million on 3 players for BYU. So, you'd expect BYU, they got to fill out the roster here. I mean, they're probably going to pay $15 million. And could that be number one? Yeah, it might not be at the end of the day. Like, who knows? I mean, Texas Tech, JT Toppin made in the neighborhood of 4. And Christian Anderson, from what I'm told, made about 2. So there you go, 2 players that are $6 million. They got FU money too. It's crazy right now because, and we've talked about this before, we don't need to rehash it, but because all the teams need to pay these guys before July 1st, before rev share comes in, and that's why they're front loading all this with no cap.
Yep. You mentioned Texas Tech, so let's just touch there real quick. JT Toppin is coming back to school. He was a guy that had a very real chance to be a back end of the first round pick, was more or less a lock to be one of the guys that you would expect to go because he would have been top 40, 45 in the draft, which is more or less a guarantee to get some kind of guaranteed deal. And if he had been the 30th pick in the draft, he would have made $2.3 million next year. But he is coming back to school and he's going to make nearly double that. I think we've gotten to a point now, and this is a different topic for a different day, but where if you're not a lottery pick, you have to make a very, very real choice about what you want to do. Do you want to lock in something where you're guaranteed to have 4 years of income, or do you want to double the amount of salary you're going to make in that 1 year and see if you can't make a little bit more by moving up in the draft with your performance? But Christian Anderson coming back to school has a chance to be an all-league caliber guy. JT Toppin coming back to school has a very real chance to be National Player of the Year or preseason National Player of the Year in that kind of conversation. If they get Darian Williams back, and he has entered the portal, he's also entered the draft. If you get Darian Williams back, I'm going to have a very difficult time not penciling Texas Tech into my preseason top 3 and potentially even number 1, depending on what happens elsewhere in the country. Looking at you, Houston, looking at you, Purdue.
I'd be surprised if Darian Williams comes back. Right now, he's locked in and trying to go to the NBA, put his name in the portal. You got to figure if you're Texas Tech. Now, again, can they raise money in the 11th hour? These kids that are putting their name in for the draft and the portal, generally, if they decide to come back to college, there's a lot of teams at that point that will have money left over, that have missed on guys that will need to spend it. So I'd be surprised if he goes back. Usually when you go in the portal like that, you don't return to the same school. So again, I'd be surprised, but it could be for leverage too, just with Texas Tech. It's a smart business decision to do this because Coleman Hawkins 2 years ago didn't do this, came out of the draft process and really didn't have any leverage, if you remember, with Illinois, and didn't get a ton of money, comparatively speaking.
Yeah, the Coleman Hawkins is also the perfect example of what to do when you last year when he stayed in the draft, it came back, and when he came back, all of a sudden there's a scarcity of players available. Darian Williams might be able to drum up the same amount of money that JT Toppin got elsewhere, or at least use it to say, I got this offer here. Can you guys get me to this number and I'll come back to school? Personally, I'm rooting for him to go back to Texas Tech because I think that would be unbelievable to see them run it back. Grant McCaslin, Christian Anderson, Darian Williams, and JT Toppin, man, that's legit. There's a very real chance that could be the number 1 team in college basketball next year in Lubbock.
When I realized they had FU money? When I was down there, not this past year, but the year before that, and I saw their practice facility with their scoreboard. Their scoreboard is the biggest thing you have ever seen in the practice facility. It is. There's a bunch of them there, but it belongs in their regular arena. It is. I mean, the amount of money. I forget his name. Dusty something is their big booster there. And again, Texas Tech's got real money. They paid a softball player $1 million. That's how you know they got real money.
Yeah, Jeff. there's a lot of money in those cattle auctions. We've seen a cattle auction. I saw how much money those guys make in those cattle auctions.
Oil too. There's some oil
They
money
made
down there too.
yeah, they made at Kansas State when we went to the cattle auction. The guy that owned it made 3 JT Toppins in one day at a cattle auction. Which, you know what? Maybe I got to start selling some cows or something, man. Maybe I'm in the wrong business here. All right, Xavier Lee. I do now, but you know what? I got on the Peloton yesterday. As soon as we're done here, I'm going to go down and
Dusty Womble. Trevor just texted us. It's Dusty Womble. That's right. Yeah.
Shout out to Trevor Release for always coming up with that kind of stuff. By the way, producer Dagan, you can jump in and talk to us, right?
Yeah.
Dagan Hughes. Dagan Hughes, look at the hat that Jeff Goodman has on. Can you remind him what happened last night, please?
That was a loss by.
They've been bad. Somebody told me the Braves can't hit
baseball.
Yeah, they can't hit. Damn.
Yeah.
They had to bring back
last night. Trey Turner hit a nice little game-winning home run in the ninth inning. Goodman, I know you're heartbroken with your Atlanta Braves, but go Phils, baby, go Phils. Xavier Lee, Princeton transfer, is one of the guys that has been kind of like a cult favorite in college basketball circles in recent years because he goes to Princeton, because his name is Xavion, which is like one of the coolest names in college basketball, and because he has NBA potential while playing in an Ivy League program. It looks like he is going to be one of the most sought after guys that I've heard. I know you got info on this, but the 3 schools that I heard linked with him, Kentucky, Duke, and Florida. Like, it doesn't get much bigger than Kentucky, Duke, and Florida.
Yeah, you're right on Duke and Florida, and the third one is St. John's. Those are the 3. Those are the 3 from what I'm told per sources. But I think it's going to come down to Duke and Florida ultimately. But St. John's is right there. They're in the mix as well. Again, this is a kid who obviously comes from the Ivy League, so you got to look at that Duke component academically and how much that will figure in. Obviously, Florida coming off the national title. And St. John's with Rick Pitino, and maybe trying to pair him with the next guy that we're going to talk about here. I won't give it up, but Ian Jackson at Carolina. So I think those are probably the 3 right now that are the clear favorites. Florida, Duke, St. John's for Xavier Lee, one of the best point guards in the portal. And one of the things that people need to know here are the point guard position right now probably is going to draw as much money as any position. There just aren't a ton of high-end point guards. That's why Rob Wright is going to command $3 million. Xavier Lee should command the same number at the end of the day because there just aren't a lot of high-end point guards right now, and people understand the value, obviously, of having one of these guys that's proven.
Well, yeah, that's definitely true. When it comes to St. John's, what they've gotten in the portal already, Josen Sinan, I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm sorry, Josen, if I got that wrong. Bryce Hopkins is joining forces there, and Zuby Ejiofor is returning to school, which is as big of a win probably as anything that you're going to find. They got a lot more they got to build out in that roster, but Simeon Wilcher is obviously a nice addition there. And then Duke, there's some moving parts still at Duke. Obviously, Cooper's gone. Obviously, Malawaka's gone. And obviously, Con Knippel is going to be heading to the NBA. When you're a top 10 pick, you go. When you're the number 1 pick, you go. But beyond that, it looks like it could be interesting to see how the rest of some of that stuff plays out and who ends up staying, who ends up going, who Shire decides he wants back. Does Shire decide he doesn't want some of these guys back? So that will be an interesting thing to monitor. Let me ask you this about Xavier. How do you see his adjustment up? Because one of the things that I am a little bit worried about with players like him, not specifically him, but just the mid-major guys, is when they move up to that next level. Sometimes you get Jacoby Gillespie, sometimes you get JP Pegues.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to get closer to Jacoby Gillespie than JP Pegues in this one. I mean, Xavion's a terrific passer, high IQ. He can score. He rebounds his position. He shoots it very well. He's gotten better shooting the ball, obviously, over the course of his 3 years in college. He's done it against, some high major teams, which helps him. Obviously, again, you look at what he's done in the Ivy. He's been terrific. But I think most schools that I've talked to don't worry about the adjustment that he'll have to make from a physical standpoint, even from an athletic athleticism standpoint going into some of these higher leagues.
Yeah, he's bigger. I think he is a little bit more athletic. He had two triple doubles last season. He had a triple double at St. Joe's, and he had a triple double against Penn in the semifinals of the Ivy League tournament. So that's a nice addition there. You teased it a little bit, Goodman. You did my job for me, which I don't appreciate. But the next guy that we got to talk about is Ian Jackson, a sophomore from the University of North Carolina, who decided to put his name in the portal. When he first committed to the Tar Heels, it basically came down to North Carolina and St. John's, if I'm remembering correctly. There might have been someone else in there, but the two teams that really seemed like they had a chance at the end of the day was North Carolina and St. John's. When he's with his name in the portal, the smoke has all been about St. John's, St. John's, St. John's. Is the smoke correct in this situation, sir?
Yeah, he's going to visit. Ian Jackson's going to visit St. John's this weekend. And again, much like Rob Wright to BYU, I would be surprised if Ian Jackson does not become as our buddy John Martin likes to say, a St. John's Johnny. They've done a great job with him. They know him. He had 3 weeks last year that he was absolutely fantastic for North Carolina. And then I think he had a little bit of I don't know if it was a freshman wall as much as it was people kind of figuring him out a little bit. And I'm not sure the fit was great there, right? I'm not sure the fit was great at Carolina last season playing with RJ. But, with obviously with St. John's, he's going to have some really, really good players around him already. You look at what they've gotten, Bryce Hopkins, you got Zuby coming back. They got a lot there. They're trying to, again, like we talked about, trying to get in with Xavier Lee. Ian Jackson can flat out score, and he's a little bit of a streaky shooter. It's the one thing I still worry about with St. John's. They need to get a elite shooter. They need to get one dude who is just knocked down, one of the best guys in the portal shooting the ball. But Ian can be a guy that can fill it up, and I think I'd be surprised if he doesn't end up at St. John's. I'd be very, very surprised.
Yeah, they're definitely still missing a couple things on that roster. I'll be curious to see what Ruben Prey ends up being at the 4, but there's not a ton of depth along that front line. As you mentioned, they have a lot of guys that can make shots. They don't necessarily have many great shooters. I will say that Bryce Hopkins is an upgrade as a shooter from RJ Lewis. I think that Ian Jackson would be an upgrade as a shooter from Kadari Richmond. I think Sandin is an upgrade as a shooter from Devin Smith. So they're getting better, but they don't really have a knockdown guy. And they also just don't have a point guard yet. And I don't know if that necessarily matters with what Rick Pitino wants to do, but there's not a point guard on that roster. And if you kind of look through the top 10 available that I mentioned that we had listed before, Rob Wright is a point guard. I think we know where he's going. Xavier Lee is a point guard. You mentioned that St. John's is probably third right now to Duke and Florida when it comes to that recruitment. And once you get beyond that, I mean, the top 10 list is looking kind of bare when it comes to point guards that are available. So,
who they might get? Who a shooter who they might be able to bring in is Chattanooga transfer Honor Huff. He's a guy on their radar. He shoots the hell out of the ball. Small guard, but really, and one of the elite shooters in the portal.
Yeah, and if you look at guys that have had success in that kind of shooter role for Rick Pitino in the past, Russ Smith isn't all that good. Who was the little white kid from Florida that they brought in on the year they won the national? I can't remember his name, but he's had little shooters before and has had a lot of success with them. Rick Pitino has. Next up on our list,
he once called Mike Mara the best shooter, best high school shooter he's ever seen. Do you remember that comment from Rick?
I remember Mike Mara when he was in high school, because he grew up in Providence. There was a video that went completely viral because he was at some open gym, and there was one of the mixtape guys there, and he windmilled on somebody's head, and it was one of the most ridiculous. I'll see if I could find it and send it to you guys, but it was one of the most ridiculous dunks I've ever seen somebody do in person. Next up, Lamar Wilkerson. I said earlier, Jeff, that I think he could be the Chaz Lanier in this year's portal. 6'5", strong, transfer from Sam Houston State, averaged 21 points last season, shot 44% from three on almost 8 attempts per game. He's a scorer. He's a big wing. He's athletic. He's a scorer. He's not really an off the dribble guy. Like, he is a shooter, scorer, and a guy that is going to be able to create space for you. I think he comes in at the next level and is a borderline all league guy at the high major level when he gets there. What can you tell us about Lamar Jackson? He's down to 4 schools now, right?
Did you call him Lamar Jackson?
Lamar Wilkerson. Lamar Wilkerson. I'm
He's
sorry,
quick.
Lamar Wilkerson.
Actually, he's not nearly as quick as Lamar.
Hold the mic, sir.
Lamar Jackson.
Hold the microphone.
Really good.
Hold your microphone.
I'm trying to get my notes ready for all these friggin' transfers. It is not easy, so you got to bear with me here. I'm trying to tweet stuff out. I'm trying to find my notes. Give me a second here, will you? I'm old. I can't remember all this shit, you know? So hold on. Let me get to Lamar Wilkerson, not Lamar Jackson, and give you his whole. Let me also say I spoke to somebody who's very familiar with Lamar Wilkerson's game, and I'll break it down for those who don't know about him. 6'5", shoots the living shit out of it, shot 45%. So the size will translate. The shooting ability will translate. Tough as nails. Hard worker, gym rat. Got better putting the ball on the floor. Got better. He can guard. And really a good impact player who a lot of high majors are in on right now. And from what I'm told, the favorites right now, there's 4 schools that are probably heavily in the mix, and it's Indiana, Kentucky, Auburn, and Ole Miss. And it looks like he's going to visit a few of those as soon as this weekend. But again, Indiana, Kentucky, Auburn, Ole Miss, those are kind of the 4 schools right now that a source that I spoke to felt like are in the best shape with Lamar Wilkerson.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's what I was told his Final Four will end up being. A lot of programs there that could really use a shooter, right? Auburn could definitely use a shooter. Indiana, without a doubt, could lose a shooter with size. And Kentucky, we just mentioned it earlier. They have a lot of guys out there. They got some size. They got a bunch of point guards out there. They don't really have a shooter that can also be a defensive piece too. So that is definitely one to keep an eye on for Lamar Wilkerson. When it comes to, I think the biggest thing when it comes to guys transferring up, the part of the reason why I feel good about Xavier Lee being able to impact next season is because he's 6'4" and 180, right? The reason why I feel good about Lamar Wilkerson being able to move up to the next level and to impact is because he's 6'5". Like, a lot of times the players that don't end up having success as they move up a level aren't able to handle the difference in length, athleticism, and physicality. You know, I mentioned JP Pegues earlier. Like, that was just the problem for him, is that he wasn't quite quick enough to be able to do the stuff that he did at the Summit in the SoCon at the SEC level. And I think that Lamar Wilkerson has the size and has the strength to be able to do the things that he needs to do to get shots off at the SEC level after doing it at Sam Houston State this past season. The last guy that you said you wanted to talk about here on this broadcast, Goodman, was Rodney Rice. Transfer from Maryland. I heard Villanova. Is he getting a visit to Villanova? Is he going to be one of the guys that Kevin Will is going to try to get to follow him there? He is a guy that has deep DMV ties. Started at Virginia Tech, did not go great at the start of Virginia Tech, and yeah, here we are. He's transferring. He's going to be looking at one of these schools. Averaged 13 a game last year. Should be an impact guy wherever he ends up.
Yeah, Villanova, Auburn, USC, probably the 3 schools that maybe at their top right now, and then Tennessee, Gonzaga are also in the mix, and Maryland to some degree, although it seems like a long shot he'll stick at Maryland with new coach Buzz Williams. But again, you know, Auburn is interesting. They thought they had Flory Badunga. I know, different position, obviously, but he decided to go back to Kansas, which kind of hurt them because they thought they were in good shape there with the big. certainly to replace Dylan Cardwell and probably give him more, because offensively he can give him a little more than Cardwell, but defensively we know Flory's a beast. That was a huge move for Kansas and a big loss for Auburn, who thought they had him. But Rodney Rice, played well for Maryland this year for Kevin Willard, knows the system. Wouldn't be too far for him going to Villanova. Villanova's got a ton of money, but so does Auburn, and USC in the mix as well. One more guy. Let me give you one more guy, if I can, that I have a little bit of intel on, and that's Mackenzie Mbako, Indiana transfer. Had an up and down sophomore year, tough freshman season. His sophomore year, it was up and down. I mean, some unbelievable games, and he had some games where he just, didn't play well at all. And that team, he was playing out of position, as I've said, for 2 years, right? I mean, Mackenzie Mbako should be playing the four. That's where he's best served. And he was playing more 3 than 4 under Mike Woodson. So, the 2 schools I'm told are probably in the best shape with him right now, NC State, Will Wade, and Kentucky. Those are the 2 right now that are in good shape. So we'll see what happens. But certainly Will Wade would be really good for Mackenzie Mbako. Young, would challenge him, a relentless worker. I mean, that's the one thing with Will Wade that people, I think, forget. Like, the guy can recruit, we know that. The guy can coach, we know that. But, he is a relentless worker. That's the one thing that stands out. And that's what Mackenzie Mbako needs, frankly. That's what he needs. He needs somebody that's going to hold him accountable, that's going to understand what he does well, and, make him guard, hold him accountable defensively.
Yeah. At some point, we got to wonder if Mark Pope is trying to field 1 or 2 full rosters. They already got 12 guys right now. We mentioned how Lamar Wilkerson's in the mix there. We mentioned how Mackenzie Mbako's in the mix there. It's very clear with those 2 coming in that they're looking for some kind of shooting presence there. But yeah, they're deep, and they are athletic, and they are talented there at Kentucky. So I love Jalen Lowe. I told you I loved him when he was at Pitt last season. I think he's going to fit really, really well with what they are looking for there. Cam Williams and Muhammad Diabate are perfect role players. I love this Kentucky team and kind of what they're building. Last one I want to get into, and we can kind of move on from here, is the best talent available right now. Not player, the best talent available is probably Nate Ament, who was supposed to commit, what was it, like a week ago at some point during the Final Four, right? And he postponed his commitment. One of the higher upside guys in the class. I would say that AJ DeBonta and Darren Peterson are clearly better prospects than he is. But I don't know if there's anybody else in the class that is as good of a prospect as he is. What do you make of him, and where do you think he could end up being placed next season?
Man, he is so talented. So much has been talked about AJ DeBonta, Darren Peterson Jr., and the Boozer twins. But I'll tell you what, Nate Ament might have a higher ceiling. I think he does have a higher ceiling than all those dudes. He had one game, I think it was early in AU season, where, what did he have, Rob? It was some insane number. It was 40 points, 20 rebounds. And I hadn't seen him yet. And then I go to Rock Hill, and I see this kid, and I'm like, really? He's I don't know, what is he, 6'9", 6'10", and he looks like he's $190. This dude got 20 rebounds in a game, and then I watched him. I'm like, this kid is tough as shit. He is tough as shit. He competes. He's super skilled. I'm not saying he's like Kevin Durant or something like that, but he could step out and shoot it. He can go in there and fight you. And as he gets stronger, man, he is going to be a problem. A lot of these kids, as freshmen, we question how much of an impact they're going to make. I don't question. I think he'll make a good impact. I think all these top freshmen, top 4 or 5, are going to make a huge impact this year in college basketball. So, having said that, his final list is in I'm going to go in the order I think it's going to be. I'm going to handicap it in the order. And again, there isn't much like great info out there. I talked to a bunch of people involved with his recruitment, and this is what I would come down to. Duke, number one, and he's Shire's top target, and I'd be a little bit surprised if he doesn't end up at Duke, per my sources. I go
Can I
Duke
tell you what
handicapping number one. Go ahead.
Can I try to guess what number 2 is? I think it's a little off the radar. Can I try to guess?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it Tennessee?
It is. Good job. Look at you. Wow. Very good. Very good. Tennessee. Then you've got some order of like Arkansas, Kentucky, and Louisville. I think it's going to be Duke. I think it's going to be Duke or Tennessee at the end of the day. But again, they've kept a pretty good rap on this thing. We'll see where it goes. There are some other schools trying to get involved right now. The number's gotten high. And can we go through also the number? And it doesn't pertain to everybody, but I did a little research here and hit 25 high major coaches on the different ranges, Rob, that they are worth right now, that they are commanding right now, whether it's in the transfer portal. Mostly it's the transfer portal, but some you're talking about even a high school kid. And I'm going to ask you to guess the ranges. All right, I'm going to ask you to guess the ranges right now of a top 10 player in college basketball next year, a guy who projects to be a top 10 player. What do you think the range is right now that they're commanding?
A top 10 player?
Yeah, like obviously Toppin, somebody like that, a Rob Wright. They're going to be top 10 players, whether they came back to school or even a high school player, I guess you could say a top high school player.
I'll phrase it like this. There is another guy that was like a 2nd/3rd team All-American, same level as JT Toppin, that has not yet entered the portal, but has been asking for roughly $4 to $5 million from what I've heard. So is that about the range for a guy that's at that level?
Yeah, I think most of those guys are going to get 2.5 to 4. Or even 3 to 4, probably 3 to 4 million. There'll be a couple, AJ probably a little bit more than that, a little bit north of that. But I think most of those guys are going to be in somewhere in that 3 to 4 range for the top 10, 15 players in the country.
So like the Braden Smiths, the PJ Haggard.
Braden got less. Braden got less from Purdue, but he'll make, again, you got to understand, even AJ DeBonsa, Braden Smith, whatever that number is from the school, there's still a lot more that comes along with it outside of what the school is actually paying them. AJ's got national deals. Nate Ament's going to get national deals. Braden Smith's going to get national deals. So, there's a number that the school is paying. And then there's like Cooper Flagg. I think Duke probably paid him in the neighborhood of $1 million last year. I mean, that's obviously a major steal, but he probably made 2 or 3 times that beyond, outside of Duke.
There was I saw a lot of look, Cooper Flagg made the national title game when he had like 3 different ads on during the national title game this season.
That's what I'm saying.
That popped up in my yes.
Right. There's a value of going to Duke, and Nate Ament probably in his group probably see that value of, can he be that next? Obviously, he doesn't come in with the same hype as Cooper Flagg, but that stuff can change very quick early on if you play well. All right, so the next category, Rob, I feel like I'm a game show host here today. The next category is all-league player. The projection for an all-league player, and I'm trying to think of an example to use here. I don't know, like maybe an Otega-Oweh type.
Like a Darian Williams, who's in the portal right now.
Yeah, he might even fit in the higher end, but sure. An all-league player, what do you think the range is for an all-league player this year right now?
1 to 2. 1 to 2.
1.5 to 2.5. 1.5 million to 2.5 million is the range that, again, I've been told mostly for an all-league player. For a starter, these are all Power 4, high major teams. A starter projected is what range?
750 to 1.5.
Close. 500, the low end to 1.5. Very good. You're good at this. I'm impressed. And then is a reserve on a high major team can command how much money, Rob?
like 250 to 5.
200 to 5. Yeah, 205.
Yeah.
As much as maybe even 7 in some cases. But those are, some of the schools are obviously, if like you're dealing with Texas Tech and they have money. If you're dealing with St. John's, they have money. It's everybody's saying that those are the like tax schools. Those are the ones that you're kind of adding a tax onto because they have so much money. So you're going to ask them for more money.
Yep. Yeah, it's crazy out there, man. The payrolls that some of these teams have are going to be wild.
Can I show everybody where I'm doing my show today?
I don't think you want to embarrass yourself. Don't do it. They already see those. You already got to fix those cabinets. I hate those cabinets. Goodman's in his new house in Charleston.
Be fixed. Dude,
good.
Everything's
good. There's
nothing.
Make those cabinets
the
be the first thing. Make those cabinets be the first thing you fix.
I don't know. Talk to Melissa. She's handling everything right now with the renovation. Good. So I'm in the house we bought.
I've seen your taste. I've seen your taste. You don't have any taste. Don't do it. Yeah.
So we were in our. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to end the show. If you got something to say, go ahead.
No, I was just saying we were in our rental down the street, and like literally 45 minutes ago, the Wi-Fi went off. So I'm like scrambling. I'm like, where do I go? I go down to Charleston, College of Charleston, do it there. I decided to do it in the house we bought that has literally nothing in it and is being in the process of being renovated. So hopefully I won't have to be back here again until it's done in about 2 or 3 months.
Well, hopefully not, man. Hopefully we can get your audio working so it doesn't sound like you're doing it in a hostage cave. So good.
Was it that bad?
No, only when you decided that you didn't want to talk into your mic anymore.
I was getting my damn notes ready. I mean, you're friggin' you're running ready, man.
You can't do the show without your notes. God forbid you maybe remember something that you write down. You got to have your notes. If you don't have your notes in front of you, who knows? Listen,
you got me working again. I mean, you're like a friggin' like what? Give me some time off.
Someone's got it. Listen, we'll be doing these every couple of days as the transfer portal stays hot. Players enter.
We're cutting it 3 minutes short.
We're
cutting it 3 minutes short. You can't go to the full hour.
No, we ended at 58:20. We've never done a full hour. Hour. Dayton's counting us down.
Short of it.
Dayton's counting us down. Thank you to Jeff Goodman. Thank you. No, thank you to Jeff Goodman. Thank you to Dayton Hughes. Thank you to Jayden Quaintance. Thank you to Trevor Valise for jumping in and making sure that you could remember who Dusty Womble was, which is, by the way, a fantastic name. I've never heard a name that's more West Texas than Dusty Womble. But we'll be doing this every couple of days as transfer portal stays hot and the news stays flying. So appreciate you guys listening. Appreciate you guys tuning in. It was an unbelievable year here for the Field of 68, and we're going to keep this thing growing. We'll see you guys later this week.